Hi, True Avatars, and welcome to your queer video game podcast. This is episode 23, and I am your host, Zoe Wild. I am a bisexual trans woman, and my pronouns are she, her. This week, I am joined once again by Amy-Lynn. Amy-Lynn is a transgender lesbian whose pronouns are she, her. How are you this week, Amy-Lynn?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
I am also joined by my partner, Nicole, and we've been together for over 9 years. Nicole's pronouns are she, her. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Hi, excited to be back since, it's been a few episodes, and it's also been like a bit of a week for personal reasons, but I'm doing good. I'm here now. We're ready.
Amazing. So like I was gonna say the same thing too. So this week has been much busier than I expected. So for the podcast itself, I haven't had much of a chance to do all the things I usually do, like all the news checks and headlines and housekeeping and segment stuff that I normally do. So this week we're just going to focus on the Pokémon Presents, which streamed on Thursday morning on Pokémon Day. So the podcast will be a bit shorter than usual. Next week I'll be back with a bunch of other stuff, including the news, like the news from this week, the news from this coming week, and then also the queer games from the Steam Next Fest that I still have not played, and I have less than 24 hours to do so at this point. But there's a bunch that I want to play and talk about and platform on the show. But before we jump into the news, I just have a few quick favors to ask of my listeners. If you like this podcast, please consider leaving a comment or review on your preferred podcast platform. True Avatars has only been rated once across all the podcast platforms, and we've never received a comment or review anywhere. It not only helps with visibility, but it helps me know what you like and don't like about the podcast, so I can try to improve it as I find my footing. Also, please follow True Avatars, a queer video game podcast, wherever you do your doom scrolling. There are accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at True Avatars, and you can also find the podcast on the official website, trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. So, with that out of the way, let's jump right into the Poké Talk, peeps. So, you both watched the Pokémon Presents this week?
Absolutely.
Yep, right next to you.
I watched it twice because I was occupied with work at the time of the original airing. So I had it kind of playing without sound under one of my monitors. And then I watched it again later in the day so I could hear all the lovely audio from it.
Well, before we jump in, I'm going to kind of just go beat by beat through the presents. I'm going to skip over most of the mobile stuff, except for one particular mobile announcement. But do you have any overall thoughts or feelings walking away from it without being too specific about the Legends ZA stuff?
I mean, I feel that there have been better directs, but it was good. Or presents, I guess. Yeah, I think it was, I did like how efficient it was, even with all the mobile stuff that you'll be glazing over. I think that it seems like the Pokemon Company kind of knew what we were after and didn't linger too much on what new pastries were available, so that was good.
Yeah, for sure. They knew everyone wanted news about Legends ZA, so they had to do all the Japanese formalities, and they kept it all very succinct and straight to the point. But yeah,
it was a lot longer than last year's, but it still felt shorter because it moved at such a brisk pace. But let's just jump into the few headlines besides Legends ZA then that I thought were really interesting. A few of the announcements they made. So Pokemon Concierge, I think last year they announced that they were making more episodes of Pokemon Concierge, which is the stop motion Netflix show set on a resort island where this girl goes to kind of escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and she starts taking care of all the Pokemon that show up to kind of rest and recharge at this hotel. So they did 4 episodes, I want to say 2 years ago now. And then this fall, they announced that the next batch of episodes, I have to assume it's probably around 4 more episodes, but they didn't say. But they are coming in September to Netflix. And also right now, until March 9th, so as of the time of recording and the time of release date on Monday, March 3rd, the episodes are all on YouTube right now. The original 4 episodes for free for everyone to watch. So you don't need a Netflix subscription, thankfully. So what did we think about the Concierge announcement?
Well, I'm excited to see new episodes. I thought the first season was very charming, and it's a different side of Pokemon. I love seeing them in stop motion because all the felt textures and stuff makes everything look so cozy. And I thought the story was very very cute. It's like, it's nice to have a main character who's not like a trainer and instead just has like a regular job. Like she's struggling like the rest of us, like trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. Like, and it sounds like a dream job, just helping Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love Pokemon Concierge. It was very charming, very, bright and cute. And even though it was kind of a slice of life, type of thing, it still, it didn't seem like it was meandering. It did, every episode had a thing that happened. I love seeing Pokemon just exist, and doing fun things, both in the wild and kind of as pets and partners. So that was really great. And I also think it's really cool that Pokemon, the Pokemon Company is with the Dwarf Studio and I guess it's Studio Aardman, the Wallace and Gromit people seem to be kind of all in on stop motion, both in Japan and externally. So it's interesting that the percentage of Pokemon animated series that are stop motion is increasing. And I hope that, they explore different media as much as possible.
Yeah, anything but the anime at this point for me. So
I mean, I've heard good things about whatever the new one is called.
Horizons.
But I don't know, it's not that Ash's Adventure was super drawing me in either, but I did watch more of Journeys than I did of this new show. But as I mentioned, I think on the last podcast, I love the sort of little Generations and Twilight Wings and those mini type of things. So hopefully more of that continues.
Yeah, I want to see. Hopefully they usually do them on anniversary years. So I hope next year we get another bunch of another web series that's based on the games, like they did for Generations, Evolutions, and I think Origins was the other one they did.
Yeah.
So. So I will skim over most of the mobile announcements. I think they covered Unite, they covered Pokemon Go, they covered Cafe Remix. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not a huge Pokemon fan, you're probably thinking, what the fuck is she talking about? And it's a good question. I don't know either. There's just a lot of Pokemon mobile games and they must make a lot of money because they just keep making new mobile games. But the one mobile announcement I think most people would be excited for because it's I think a lot of Pokemon fans are playing it right now and it's making almost as much money as Go did when it first came out, is TCG Pocket. So on February 27th, they announced that there was going to be a new set called Triumphant Light based on Arceus. And that set ended up coming out less than 24 hours later in the app. And I so far have not gotten any of my chase cards, which includes Magnemite. So have either of you opened any Triumphant Light packs?
I pulled said Magnemite about 15 minutes ago.
Oh,
I'm so jealous.
And then I don't really have any chase cards for this set. I'm still sort of casually chasing the interactive Mew from the previous set, the one from the Celebi related set, weirdly, because I got 2 of the immersive Celebis and haven't gotten that cool Ruins Mew card. But I got the Magnemite and I got the Arceus immersive one for this set. And the full art trainer of the Pokemon Legends girl, the water-based one. Yeah.
Mm.
You've had better pulls than I have.
Yeah, it's just making up for how bad my luck was in the previous couple sets.
That's fair. I had really good luck in the last few sets, so I guess my luck had to run out at some point.
It'll return.
I hope so. Nicole?
Yeah, I used my pack hourglasses to open 10 packs right from the start. And I don't know, I didn't really have any chase cards yet because I haven't had a chance to look through them all, but I pulled a really adorable Meryl full art where there's a bunch of Meryls.
Oh, cool.
What else did I get? The Shaman? Yeah, there's some more, but I can't remember them right now. But yeah, I love them all so far.
So let's move on though, because I think people are probably itching to hear more about. So there was Legends EA news, but there was also one brand new Switch game announcement. They didn't say it was for Switch 2, although because of backwards compatibility, at the very least, it will be playable on Switch 2. But they basically announced a new version of Pokemon Stadium that wasn't called that. It probably won't have the mini games, but they're calling it Pokemon Champions. And what it's probably going to happen with this game is that they're going to move all the competitive Pokemon stuff from Scarlet and Violet into this game. Because it's playable on Switch, it's playable on mobile, it's likely playable on Switch too. But anyway, it's called Pokemon Champions, and it seems to be like a battle simulator, like exclusively for Pokemon battles. You can use your, you can send Pokemon from Go, Scarlet and Violet, and Home to and from the app. I guess for Go, it's a one-way trip, but all the other apps, you can like, oh, you have a Fuecoco from Scarlet and Violet? Cool, you can now send that to Pokemon Champions and battle with it. But the really exciting part about Pokemon Champions, that I found anyway, is that when they show it off, they show one of the trainers mega evolving their Pokemon, and then that trainer's opponent terastallizes their Dondozo. And I'm sure non-Pokemon players are like, terastallizes Dondozo, like those are words. But anyway, basically every generation of Pokemon, every time they make a new game, right, they introduce a new battling gimmick. And I call it that because some of them are more gimmicky than others. But the first time they did it was Mega Evolution, where there's like a temporary form change. And then in the next generation, there was something called Z moves, where, you know, you got one big attack at each battle that you could use. And then after you used it, you couldn't use it again in that battle. And then in Gen 8, which was Sword and Shield, they had introduced Gigantamax, which was Mega Evolutions, but very big. Like Pokemon were Godzilla sized. And then in the recent generation is everyone can terastallize, which is basically everyone like looks like Crystal, and they get to change their type and get a stats boost. So basically it looks like what this game is announcing is that for the first time ever, you'll be able to battle these gimmicks against each other, because up until now, the only two gimmicks that ever crossed paths were Z moves and Megas. But terastallization has never, in any official app, has ever been able to battle a Mega Pokemon. So this is kind of a big deal, actually, in my opinion. So, thoughts?
I think if I cared more about competitive battling, I would be super excited about this. I did think that, I guess to go back to Pokemon Journeys, like that was one of the cool things about that final tournament, that it had, you know, the different, as you said, sort of battle gimmicks, all sort of in the same tournament. And it'll be, I think, fun to have multiple gimmicks in the same battle. It'll be interesting to see it'll be interesting to see what balancing they do, if any, to make it so that it's worth doing some of the weaker gimmicks compared to some of the stronger ones. But aside from that, no strong interest. I think actually, if they do have like rental teams or like randomizers,
they do. I think they've confirmed rental teams. Yeah.
Okay. Like, well, I mean, like if the game has like a tournament mode for like randomized rental teams, I think that would be like potentially fun. But as I don't have time for Pokemon eugenics, I will probably not be playing with my own Pokemon. My Pokemon have lots of delightful impurities in their DNA.
Me too.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be any rules for like when you build your team, like how many different gimmicks you can have at once. Like, can you have one, like if it's a double battle, can you have a Mega like next to a terastallized Pokemon or Gigantamax? And is it going to look silly? Like, I don't know.
Well, in the anime, in that final battle, Ash versus Leon, I think they were each allowed one of each gimmick. So, you know, Pikachu could use a Z move, Pikachu could Gigantamax, and I think Ash's Lucario Mega evolved in that battle. And then at some point, they had Eternatus come out of nowhere and revive everyone's gauges so they could do them all again. Or at least the Gigantamax could happen again. But I don't know. I think for competitive sake, they'll probably let you pick, like you get one of the 4 gimmicks each battle. You won't get like Mega and terastallization each once. I would imagine. And then there's the question of like, can you terastallize a Mega Pokemon?
Oh my gosh.
Can a Mega Pokemon use a Z move? Yeah. Can you stack them? So anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I think that was it. Just like all the different possibilities, like, and how are they going to all interact with each other?
I do think that the only way you're going to have like a terrestrialized Pokemon next to like a Gigantamax is if they have like 4-player. And, every, human player would get one of those gimmicks then. So if it is, a double battle, I think that is a possibility.
Right. Well, we haven't seen any gameplay yet. Everything in the trailer was specifically all pre-rendered and animated outside of the game. So they only said it's now in development, and the company that's helping to develop it is called the Pokémon Works. And Pokémon Works is actually just Game Freak's collaboration with the company that made Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which I know a lot of people didn't like. I thought it was fine. There's a couple performance issues with that game, but aside from that, I think the games themselves were developed perfectly fine. Ilka is a completely competent company, in my opinion, but to get that Ilka name off and the taste out of fans' mouths, I think they like rebranded and called themselves like a joint effort called the Pokemon Works. And the Pokemon Works was only announced last year, so they haven't been around that long. If I had to guess, the game has only been in development for maybe a year and a half at this point. Because of the way Pokemon competitive like loops work is usually they last every 3 years because that's how long a generation lasts. So Scarlet and Violet is coming up on its third Worlds competition in August. So I think after that is when they're going to want to get this new game going, is sometime in the fall. So that way the next competitive circuit going into 2026 for the 30th anniversary is not more Scarlet and Violet. So I have to imagine it's probably launching before next Pokemon Day. But that's all we know. We haven't seen any gameplay. We just saw this really, really splashy trailer, which I thought was really cool. So before we jump into the Legends ZA talk, of which there is a lot, they also announced, this is probably very specific to a certain audience, and I'm not sure this podcast covers that, but I thought this was really cool for accessibility purposes, is that they announced that future Pokemon games, and I think the TCG as well, will be localized in Latin American Spanish for the first time ever. So I think they said Legends ZA, I think they said something else, and I think they also said future TCG sets are going to have it. So I think it's safe to assume, though, that Generation 10 coming out likely in 2026, and all games after that are going to be in Latin American Spanish, unless, of course, those games don't sell for whatever reason. But I don't think we've ever seen a single Pokemon game add a language and then take it away later. So
I think it is cool that they did add Latin American Spanish to the games. Not that I was playing the game in Spanish, but I have memories of picking up Pokemon Black or White 2. I forget which one I got, but I think it was Black 2. And I bought it while I was temporarily living in Costa Rica. So I have a little bit of memories connected to that type of Spanish and Pokemon together. So yeah, it's great that entire, region from, Mexico and all of the Spanish speakers in the US, all the way down through South America have a game that is, or have a language to play in that is a little bit more accurate to what they speak and listen to on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to do. And like when I first heard it, I was like, wait, they didn't have Spanish before? But then yes, I realized there's a difference between like Spain Spanish and Latin American Spanish, just like there's difference between like France French and Canadian French. Probably lots of differences. So yeah, it's great that there'll be a more authentic experience for Latin American Spanish speakers.
Yeah, I think the last time they had there's a bunch of languages where I think they flip-flopped because of the way they were localizing things. If Pokemon, early on, I want to say it was Germany, but it might not have been Germany. It was definitely a European language where it wasn't fully localized. And because of that, or they localized the games, but not the show, or the show and not the game. So all the names are still the American English names. So I do wonder if Latin Americans have been playing Pokemon through, are they going to keep the Spain Spanish names and just transfer those over? Because do fans in Latin America know that? Are they going to use the American names, or are they going to just start localizing names going forward, but all the original 1025 are going to be this? I don't know how they're going to do that, but
I think I remember South Korea had instances with that where the Korean language was added at a later date, and so they were, the translations for the names kind of got mixed up a little bit. But I'm sure Pokemon Company International knows what they're doing. Hopefully, we won't get another Mr. Mime on our hands.
Yeah. What's funny about Mr. Mime is that the person who was doing those translations and localizing,
Yeah.
he was localizing the game, but he was not picking the names. But when they came to him to like show him the names as he was localizing the game, he said, "You can't call it Mr. Mime because they're going to have gender differences." He was like reading the writing on the wall for this game. And he was like, "When they make a sequel, there's going to be gender differences. You can't call him Mr. Mime." And they were like, "We're going to do it anyway." And then we ended up with Mr. Mime, who can be a girl. So
Not Mrs. Mime.
not Mrs. Mime. At least they fixed it with Mime Jr. But then they introduced Mr. Rhyme, who can also be female. So
Got to double down.
yeah. So shall we move on to Legends ZA?
Let's dive in.
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of go through my notes here and jump in whenever, honestly, because there's a lot to cover here. But basically, for anyone who did or didn't watch the trailer, Legends ZA is the game they announced last Pokemon Day. They didn't show any gameplay. We just know it's a Legends game. It's set in Lumiose City in the Kalos region, which is basically Pokemon Paris, set in Pokemon France. There is a giant Eiffel Tower looking thing in the middle of this city that acts as a landmark. So we knew it would be set there. We knew it would be a Legend style game. So we assumed the Legend style game. We assumed it might be a game set in the past, but it's set after X and Y, which came out in 2013. So it's been probably about 10 years in universe. And they still have the Legend style catching. So you can still aim a Pokeball in the overworld, hide in the grass, Visually, it looks exactly like, it doesn't look like Legends Arceus. It looks like Scarlet and Violet. However, the graphics do look significantly improved, especially the lighting. The lighting looks a lot better. It's so much less flat than Scarlet and Violet. They also did announce the starters, and the starters, get this, are Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile. So they skipped Cyndaquil for obvious reasons, because Cyndaquil was the starter in Legends Arceus, but everyone assumed that, they were going to pick a starter from each region, different regions. So, it'd be Chikorita, Tepig, and maybe like Poplio, but they ended up choosing the other two Johto starters. And I have a theory, we'll get into that later, but how do we feel about the starters so far?
I think that the starters were a really fun surprise because, the speculation has been going on for literally over a year at this point. And, everyone was saying like, okay, it's going to be Snivy because it kind of has a fleur-de-lis tail. And it's going to, and, all these, Empoleon because of Napoleon, like everyone was going like all in with like this, France references because, the previous game used kind of the samurai, sage and Japanese archer type of thing, type of aesthetics. And then there was certain events happened which made people believe that it would just be the Kalos starters. So when the starters showed up on screen, like I kind of, did like a laugh and cheer just because I do really like when, rumors and speculation is wrong. Like I like when a company can keep a secret and surprise people. So I'm really excited there. None of these starters are my favorites, but I'm excited to see what comes with them. Fun surprise.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same. Like that, none of them like are my standout favorites as well. But I do have love. I do have love for Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile. Like they're all cute, and it's nice to see like Chikorita and Totodile get some attention because I know like they haven't really gotten much attention in anywhere else like so far or since Gen 2, I guess. So I'm curious to see what their final forms will be like because like in Legends Arceus there was like a different forms for the Hisui region. So it'll be fun to see what the regional variants are in this one.
Yeah, I won't take this Chikorita and Tepig slander. But actually, I'm excited. I was surprised. I honestly thought it was just going to be the Kalos starters, the Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. I think they'll definitely be in the game, but as we're going to talk about later, there's actually going to be 4 sets of starters in this game. But anyway, we're going to get into why that is just momentarily. But they also announced last year, and then they confirmed it this year, is that Mega Pokemon are coming back, which is why they were in the Champions trailer. But when they did Megas the first time, we got some in one batch in X and Y, and then a year later, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire with the Ruby and Sapphire remakes came out on 3DS. They did another batch of Mega Evolutions. So I assumed that at the very least they would have all the X and Y Mega Evolutions in this game for sure. But when they were showing them off, they showed off Altaria and Sableye, who are in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So my theory is that they're going to bring all of them back because it's a Mega game and there's only like 48 anyway, so you might as well bring all of them back. But if all of them are back, and they did confirm Charizard, so Charizard's in. So Charizard's other form will likely be in. So there's Charizard X, Charizard Y. Venusaur and Blastoise only got one form each, but if Charizard's in, those two will be in. So that means we're going to definitely get Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile for starters. Froakie, Fennekin, and Chespin. We're also going to get Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. And then also in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, we got Torchic, Trico, and Mudkip. Their final stages also got Megas. So those starters are also likely to be in the game. It also means that we're likely to get some of the Gen 3 Ruby and Sapphire legendaries is the word I'm looking for. So Latios and Latias and Rayquaza all had Mega Evolutions as well. So I think those will be in the game too.
And Diancie.
Yeah, that's a Gen 6 mythical though. And I think given that the fact that Legends Arceus had all the mythicals in, I think Diancie is for sure guaranteed. And also Hoopa. And Hoopa is actually a brilliant choice because Hoopa has this whole gimmick where he puts rings everywhere that are portals to other places. And that would completely explain, like, if you walk into a portal, like, why would Rayquaza be in France? Rayquaza is normally in the south of Japan in the Pokemon world. But if you walk through this portal ring and you're on the Spear Pillar, then they could definitely have you battle Rayquaza, and then you could bring it back to Kalos as part of your team. And that'll be the same thing with the starters. So we know in Legends Arceus, we had the space-time distortions that were caused by Arceus, Palkia, and Dialga, bringing Pokemon from the future, like Porygon, to the 1800s, a Pokemon that definitely should not exist in the 1800s. So I think they can do the same thing with Hoopa's portal rings for the starters. And also, like, they gave you a way to catch the other starters you didn't pick at the end of the game. And that's how they'll do it this way too, is through Hoopa's rings. That's my theory anyway. So
as much as I love the fact that for I guess the specific reason is potential character customization. I love the fact that this game is taking place in the present, but I will miss, like, the amazing Pokedex entries written by the professor. Like you mentioned Porygon, and, like, I just really love the professor going, like, I don't understand, this Pokemon shouldn't exist. Where are its organs? Like, I'm distressed. I'm distressed by this thing. Which was, like, really fun, like lore and things like that. Like, so I'm a little bit sad that, you know, we're losing out on that fun, you know, bit. I mean, but again, I guess maybe repeating it wouldn't have been fun either. But yeah, I think that the Hoopa idea is really cool. I think that that's incredibly likely. It's better than just, you know, France has an epidemic of introduced species all of a sudden, which, I mean, Pokemon does kind of anyways, but I would like that they actually put some thought into it.
Me too. So, Nicole, sorry, before I move on, do you have any thoughts? Sorry, I almost skipped right past you.
Oh no, I think that could be a cool theory too, like, just because is that how it happened in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire? Like, that's how we got all the different legendaries showing up?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played.
Yeah, it was through Hoopa's portal. I mean, Hoopa wasn't in the game, and they never actually said these are Hoopa's rings, but between Hoopa's actual attack animations combined with Hoopa's model and also Hoopa in the movie, we know that those are Hoopa's rings, even if the game never technically says they are. So,
So there is precedent.
Yeah. So the story for Legends ZA, they did confirm in the trailer. We saw gameplay, we saw story stuff, so that our player character, we're visiting Lumio City as tourists, and we stay at the Hotel Z, where AZ from X and Y, the tall 3,000-year-old dude, is, like, running a hotel with his ancient Floet form that no one can access. We're working with a company called Quasartico, or Quasartico. I forget how they pronounced it in the trailer, but it's like this old lady that looks like Lucamine's mom, plus a guy that is clearly Lysander, the bad guy from X and Y, with a dyed beard and a haircut. So they're the bad guys. It's pretty obvious. It's just which one is the actual bad guy and which one is the one pretending.
Oh, he's not a bad guy. He's just Cousin Vinny. He's trustworthy. It's the most trustworthy name of all the mobsters. I mean,
Vinny.
Legitimate business people.
Yeah, Vinny and the Jets. is the joke I thought of, because it's
Oh my gosh,
Jet is
yeah.
the lady that runs it, and there's Vinny.
I'm sure that's intentional, or it's very likely it's intentional.
Well, our rivals are called Urbane and Tawny, and then someone pointed out on Twitter that it's just Urban and Towny as their names. So, the other thing too is that it's set all in the city, so you're like, okay, where are the Pokemon? Obviously, this city's been overrun, and there's not a lot of Pokemon, but there's this spots in the city called Wild Zones, kind of like the wild area from Sword and Shield, but there's no loading screens. You just walk through a digital gate, and you're right into this part of the city where wild Pokemon can be found and caught. And it seems to me that you can also find them outside of these wild zones in the regular parts of the city, but maybe just not as much. But either way, that's where you're going to do all your Legends Arceus style catching and battling. And actually, speaking of battling, battles are different now. It's not turn-based with the what do they call that in Legends Arceus? The if anyone wants to jump in and remind me, because my brain is not functioning today.
Like the different styles, like the
strong
the battle
style.
styles.
Yeah.
Strong style and agile style. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Amy-Lynn. So in this time though, battles are real time. So think close to Final Fantasy VII Remake style battles, although still not as advanced as that. But battles are real time. There's charges up for you. You have to not charge up your moves, but your moves have cooldown gauges. You can kind of control where your Pokemon go. You can kind of like walk around the battlefield and your Pokemon will follow you like a puppy. So because of that, you can dodge now. You can like call your Totodile. They show your Totodile being called over in the battle. And Totodile misses being hit by your rival's attack. This also means that there's now timing. Timing is a huge part of how you attack. So like with your gauges and moving around and dodging, moves have an area of effect. So you have to take that into consideration. Certain moves obviously will have to be done within a shorter range, and some will be able to hit the entire battlefield. And also, no, that's pretty much everything they showed off actually. Oh, and Mega Evolutions also have a bar that depletes over time. So instead of a Mega Evolution lasting for 3 turns, you'll activate the Mega Evolution, and then your Mega Evolution gauge will deplete over time. And I assume you probably only get to use that once per battle like before. How do we feel about real-time battles?
I do feel that, and this summarizes my thoughts about the ZA trailer, I guess, as a whole, but especially these real-time battles. Like, I am left after seeing this trailer thinking that this is going to be my favorite Pokemon game. It's not quite, being able to control the Pokemon in kind of a Tales of or Eternal Sonata style battle system, but it is pretty close, and it is like really immersive. I am super excited about this kind of shift. Like, it's not all I ever wanted, as I kind of implied, but it's so close, and it's kind of like in some ways better than what I wanted, because it does kind of simulate being a Pokemon trainer versus playing as the Pokemon themselves. But yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm kind of like newer to like real-time battle styles. Like, I grew up playing these turn-based Pokemon games. I'm like, it's very relaxed. Like, you can like, no one can hurt you while you're trying to make a decision. And so like, I remember when I was playing like Breath of the Wild for the first time, like, and I had to like actually do like real-time combat with monsters. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so stressful. And then when I played, Final Fantasy VII Remake, same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, like, people are attacking me from all sides. I have to dodge. I have to like figure out what my move is. And like, but I eventually like adapted and learned, and it got really fun. So I'm excited to like take that experience with me and have it in a Pokemon game at last. And yeah, it's going to be like the anime. Like, Pokemon can finally dodge. Like, you don't have to rely on like, oh, the attack missed for some reason. Sand attack. Double team.
I mean, like, I think like ideally, as I mentioned, you'd be able to, control your own Pokemon. And then like the main thing I was thinking is, if you think about like Hitmontop, it would be fun to, spin around and like, just control that, or, with Kirlia doing like the pirouettes, or like Starmie like spinning around, or like Donphan with Spin Dash. So like,
Yeah,
I guess I just want like either Beyblade or Sonic, as the gameplay of Pokemon. But, it is, because I did see a character use, I think, Rollout or Flame Wheel. And, I just thought it was really cool seeing them kind of, again, like Sonic Spin Dash, charge up and then launch. So I am really excited to see how some of these attacks, work in this new kind of system.
So I
Yeah,
have
I
a
wonder-
theory. Sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
Oh no, I wonder, like, yeah, when you said the spinning and stuff, like, I wonder if attacks can be like parried. Can you like cancel out someone's attack with a similar same strength attack? So many
Well,
possibilities.
if counter exists in the game, then probably.
You're right. Yeah.
I have a theory because you mentioned like being able to control your Pokemon, Amy-Lynn. When they did the synchro mechanic in Scarlet and Violet's DLC, where you actually could walk around as your Pokemon, I wondered if that was a beta test for real-time battles. And I was wondering, like, when they showed us that we were still controlling the trainer, I wonder if trying to give you control, like, make a move set for, like, and also a move set that can be changed, by the way, like Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy VII Remake has, like, 4 playable characters, and then Rebirth only has, I think, 6 or 7. Trying to do that for 200, 300, 400 Pokemon, they must have realized at a certain point that's not possible. So I wonder if they were testing that with the synchro mechanic and they realized it was just too much work, and that this is like a stopgap to getting there, and or maybe even they could do it, but they were worried it was too big of a change from turn-based. So they're slowly getting us there. But I'm not surprised that we're getting real-time battles. I could feel the writing. I could like read the writing on the wall when I saw the synchro mechanic. So
Yeah, we're getting there. Maybe the next Legends game.
I hope so.
My spin team is still a possibility.
So the trailer ends with an invitation, like this like animation where you're like, it's a first person point of view. You're like woken up by your Rotom phone. You know, his alarm is going off and he's like, oh, time to get up. And then it shows like an image of the Eiffel Tower in Pokemon, which is called the Prism Tower. And it like lights up and it says you've been like invited to a battle. And so in X and Y, the Prism Tower is a gym, but it's only one gym. I think it's the third gym. It's the electric gym. And maybe it's not the third gym, but it's one of the earlier gyms in the Prism Tower. And I'm wondering if in this game, because you're only in Lumiose City, you can't go to the other gyms. I'm wondering if they're going to have it so all the gym leaders, the Elite Four, Diantha, the champion, if like all those famous trainer battles are just going to happen in the Prism Tower. And over the course of the game, as you progress the story, you'll be like, oh, yeah, Karina wants to battle you with her Lucario at Prism Tower. Go there now. And maybe it'll give you badges. Maybe it'll just be like, you know, progression. But I think that's what is going to be I think that's what that's teasing, is like all your main story battles are going to be there. And it won't just be the third gym that you battled Clement like 12 times in the game, for example.
I think that's likely, like, especially with this game, like, it's obviously catching is still a thing, but there's definitely this new focus on this new kind of battle. So there has to be, you know, either some kind of tournament or some kind of system like a gym or something adjacent to that. So I think that's a real possibility. Or probability, even.
Yeah. I wonder, like, that will be like part of the kind of the one of your quests, I guess, like to battle through all the gym leaders or like guests, like famous trainers. But like, what will the story's main quest be? Like in Legends Arceus, it was like kind of filling out the decks and like trying to tame all the frenzied nobles. Like, what is the equivalent thing going to be in this game?
Well, we know it's going to be at least rebuilding the city, but we don't know how much of a city builder it is versus just like as the story progresses, maybe the city gets rebuilt. How much of that is controlled by the player, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the trailer too, they did give us the release date, kind of. I thought for sure if they were going to give us a release date, they were going to give us the actual date in this trailer, because it's already been, we just want to know when we're going to be playing it, really. But they said late 2025. Which surprised me, because I thought with the in the Presents, they actually announced that Mega Pokemon cards were coming back to the TCG. And I thought for sure that Mega Pokemon cards would release after the game releases itself, because usually that's how it goes. But it seems to me like this mega set is probably going to release before the game comes out in late 2025. Now, I haven't checked this. I meant to go back and check this for sure, but usually when Pokemon announces a fall, like a late in the year release date, they say holiday 2025 or like holiday 2023 or whatever. This case, they said late 2025. So I have to wonder if this game is coming out sooner than the holidays, because usually when they say it's a holiday game, they're not shy about at least saying holiday 2025. And then it's going to be like that mid-November Thursday of the year, right? Like a week before Black Friday, they're going to release it. But in the Japanese trailer and on the Japanese website, they said autumn 2025. And whenever Pokemon hasn't released a game during the holidays, but they have released a game in the fall, it's always been sometime in the middle of October. So the Sword and Shield second DLC came out in the middle of October. And obviously this isn't true for the Scarlet and Violet DLC, which was supposedly internally delayed to December, but I think it was supposed to be an October date. But we also know that X and Y back in 2013 came out in October. So I wonder if they're, trying to make it rhyme a little bit and call back to that and have this game come out a little bit sooner. And my prediction is October 16th. Which is smack dab between the two October dates they've had previously, which I think was October 12th and 22nd. So I'm guessing October 16th is a Thursday. That's when I think they're going to release the game.
Mark in my calendar.
So before we move on to theories and stuff, does anyone have anything else that I didn't mention in the trailer that they want to talk about?
I think that the main thing for me is, as I've mentioned, how much I am excited about this game, and partly that is kind of aesthetically, and it's really interesting. Some of the wild zones, they really kind of look like almost a post-apocalyptic, city, which, because there's like overgrown plants, because the objective is to make a city that is, appealing to both Pokemon and humans. So it ends up sort of accidentally looking like a really positive and like bright and not despair, post-apocalypse of like overgrown or like little patches of plants growing in the city. And I really love that aesthetic. And I think it's really cool that because of the story, we kind of get that overgrown mix between, natural and urban that you only normally see in post-apocalyptic or some solar punk settings. And we're getting it kind of in this regular, near future Pokemon setting that a lot of people know and love. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what the rest of this city looks like.
Pokemon has always looked like a utopia. They have free healthcare for everyone. You just walk in,
Yeah.
you throw your butt up on the conveyor belt, and it, cures you of all your problems.
Yeah, but then they have like $90,000 bikes, so
Yeah.
That's true.
it's a bit of a mix.
So, Nicole, do you have any other thoughts before we move on to theories?
I feel like we'll probably cover it. We can go straight into those.
Okay. So there's some minor details that tie into my theories, but I did notice that we can go inside buildings again after Scarlet and Violet basically took that away. There's a couple buildings you can go into in Scarlet and Violet, but for the most part, when you enter either houses, you can't go into them anymore, like just walking into some random stranger's house. But when you want to go shop in Scarlet and Violet, entering the door just opens up a menu, and then you can buy things, but you can't go inside. There's no human to look at. There's no shelves to interact with, nothing like that. But this game seems to have buildings you can enter again, and they're not just like tiny little like spaces to walk around in. It looks like some of them are kind of substantial. But also another detail I noticed is that you can now go up on the roofs and even battle on them. And my thought was, okay, well, Breath of the Wild was like, Legends Arceus is to Breath of the Wild what this game is to Tears of the Kingdom. Because we knew about the Sky Islands for Tears of the Kingdom pretty much right off the bat, but we didn't know about the depths. And I'm wondering, because Paris is known for its catacombs and its sewers, is like, are we going to be able to go down as well as up in this city? And that's kind of where you're going to find some more Pokemon. Like, you're going to find some flying types up on the roof, but, down below, it'll be kind of like the Sinnoh Grand Underground, where you can find these little biomes underneath the city that are found through these catacombs. Like, you'll be able to find like a lava spot or something like that, or like an underwater reservoir where all the water types are. instead of just having these Pokemon interspersed throughout the city.
Finally, Sewage Dratini.
Regional variants?
We're Bulbasaur.
Yeah, that's how we get, because I was wondering, like, oh, are there going to be regional variants? And that's what they all are. They're just going to be sewage-based regional variants.
Grimer will be in the game, though, but somehow Grimer will be purified.
Oh my God.
What does a purified Grimer look like?
I don't know.
Apparently they have
sludge.
apparently they have footprints, or Muck does at least, so we'll see what their feet look like.
Oh yeah, the Dex entry says Muck's footprints are poisonous. Right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I do think that the Catacombs is like almost a certainty, like given that it's a game based off of Paris. But when you mentioned the going into buildings, again, I'm going back to my post-apocalypse kind of thing. I want like an abandoned mall to catch Pokemon in. And I think that would be a great place for, Pokemon that have like that human element, like Klefki or Mimikyu, or Banette. Like, I'm now excited for, giant empty stores with Pokemon in them.
There's definitely a possibility, especially if we're rebuilding Lumiose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. From an urban planning perspective, it seems like such an interesting choice to do. Like if it was actually realistic, like how do you manage these different wild areas, like deteriorating, like buildings, abandoned buildings, and then you have these like little parkettes that actually look nice with like ponds and trees and grass. So yeah, I wonder if it will be like part of the mission to go into these areas that seem to have deteriorated and try to like figure out like, oh, what Pokemon are living there and what do we need to do
And I think that also will help with having not everything rely on Hoopa, because it would be a little bit weird to have, and I'm sure they'll still do this to some degree, but it would be weird to have like really big Pokemon just in the city. I know that we've seen shrunken down Onyx, but I think having like an underground cavern space would help to like, I guess, justify like seeing like a Wailord, or something like slightly bigger like Sharpedo or like Graveler, right? Like or Graveler's kind of small, but the larger Pokemon, like having them in like an underground cave system would kind of help not everything have to be like a dimensional distortion, and still have it being like within the confines of the city.
Yeah, plus where you're supposed to find your ground sand hippo thing. Like, you're not going to find that in Paris on the overworld, I would imagine.
Well, we've seen the ground sand crocodiles or Gharials, so...
Yeah.
That's true, yeah. They're just swimming around in the parks, probably making people trip. So, I think I said earlier, this is also in my notes here in the theory section, but I think the bodyguard secretary dude, Vinny, as we talked about, I think that's Lysander. I think he's dyed his hair and he's cut his hair, but his beard is exactly the same, like real subtle. And if it's not him, it's someone related to him, because he looks way too much like Lysander to not be part of and we don't know what happened to Lysander. Supposedly he got crushed by a building, but like, it's Pokemon. Did he survive? Did he die? Like, who knows? Well,
we've seen Looker's, I guess, office. Emma. So maybe we'll have Lysander lost his memory, and it all connects to like trying to figure out what everyone's memory is, and maybe he's not a villain until we help him to remember who he is, and he remembers, oh yeah, I want to destroy the world or whatever.
Sorry, what?
I'm just saying it's been a while. I think I need to replay X and Y to like refresh my memory.
Yeah, that's what my question was. Like, what did Lysander want to do? Like, do something with fashion? Like, was that his goal? Like, all the other teams I feel like are like really memorable. It's like, we want to flood the earth. We want to dry up the earth. We want to be a mob boss, or we want to just take over Japan, want to connect Pokemon or free Pokemon, except not really. Like, or like, what's his name? The nihilist guy in Diamond and Pearl. Like, there's clear goals, but like with this dude, Lysander, I was like, he had a Dr. Octopus arm, and he was cool on TV in the episode, like the anime episode, webisode thing. I forget completely.
Well, I think his goal is different depending which game you play too. I was looking him up last night to just refresh my memory, and I think in X he wants to like preserve nature or something, and then in Y he's just like, screw everything, let's destroy it. But then his goal becomes muddied as he realizes how awful people are, and then he just wants to destroy all Pokemon or something. His goal changes throughout the game, but he's not a very memorable villain aside from how he looks.
Yeah.
So. Oh, is it because like Xerneas is like creation and Yveltal is like destruction?
Yeah.
Okay.
The webisode,
we haven't seen them.
The webisode does make him look interesting, like with his, I think, relation with is it Diantha, or what's her name? Like they're the champion.
Yeah, Diantha.
Like it does seem like there was this like interesting, character connection that, kind of like Professor Oak and Agatha, like there's this history that's implied, which seems kind of cool. And the fact that he's like, the Steve Jobs of the Pokemon universe, seemingly, like there's potential there, but yeah, kind of not potential that didn't really live up to what the design and intention was.
Well, when Nicole and I watched it, our theory was that Jet, who owns the company, the Quasartico, she might be Lucamine's grandmother. And I also saw someone theorizing online that maybe Quasartico is a branch of the Ether Foundation, because they said in that game they have branches all over the world, and we already know that family's big. They've already introduced a lot of that family, so it wouldn't surprise me if she's Lucamine's grandmother, and we find that out and we assume she's the villain, but then it turns out Lysander has just been like getting his hooks into this company. He's actually the bad guy, but turns out the bad guys are the good guy. Like they always do that. They let you think one person is the bad guy, and then it turns out the other person is the bad. Ever since I want to say Gen 7, they've been doing this thing where like the bad guys are not the bad guys and the good guys are not the good guys, because they don't want to just do evil team bad anymore.
With that family, like, wasn't like the husband like the theorized to be like the bean counting minigame guy or something?
Oh, that's confirmed. They confirmed that in the anime. He's definitely
that's funny.
The dude on the island that
Oh my gosh.
So
I love that.
In the anime they reunite them.
Oh, that's cool.
Sorry, Nicole?
Was it called Pokepelago or something?
Yes, that's it. Pokepelago.
I love it. Trying to shake the tree and get all the beans.
Yeah. So another thing we saw was that Zygarde cells are back. So they'll probably be the Korok seeds of the game. We know that we saw one cell in the building, and then we saw 10% Zygarde, which is like the dog form with his glowing, flashing butthole on the roof looking at the Eiffel Tower. So we know there'll probably be a quest to do with like getting all the cells like there was in Pokemon Sun and Moon, because this game with Zygarde's lore was never expanded in X and Y. There was going to be a Z version, but it never happened, and then all that Zygarde stuff was then folded into Sun and Moon in the next generation. So Zygarde's never really had a spotlight in Kalos yet. So I think there'll be something pretty big there. And obviously the game is called Legend Z, right? So something that's kind of fun, that's not really a big theory, but just like a little detail, is that in Scarlet and Violet, the overworld theme transitions seamlessly into the battle theme when you enter a battle. And I noticed when they were showing off wild battles in the wild zone in the trailer, they're playing a very mellow piano version of the XY battle theme, the wild battle theme.
Oh, nice.
So we didn't hear the actual wild battle theme in the trailer, but I have to assume that when you enter a battle, while that piano version is playing, it'll seamlessly transition to the main battle theme, the faster version.
That would be cool.
Yeah, making it more like a seamless experience.
So I think that the big theory that I'm curious about, what you two think about, For the starters, do you think they're getting megas or do you think they're getting regional variants? Because I feel that there's, kind of equal possibility for both. I think the argument for megas is the fact that it is, the mega region, and the fact that it would make sense to give your starter Pokemon the gimmick that the game is kind of the first trailer sort of ended on. Yes, Mega Evolution is back. With regional variants, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's just contemporary Kalos, but it would also be kind of weird to also give Mega Evolutions to not Cyndaquil, or would it be weirder to have different regional variants for the different Johto Pokemon? So I am really curious what they end up going with.
I have a lot of thoughts, so I'll let Nicole go first if she has a response to this, because then I'm just probably going to go off on a tangent.
No, yeah, I'm thinking maybe they'll do both, because I was leaning towards maybe regional variants, because that makes sense, having Gen 2 Pokemon in a new region.
Except theoretically, they've been in France before, right? You could just bring them over, and it's not like they're adapting to a completely different time period. They're just going on vacation. Mm-hmm. So it's weird. I want regional forms because I love regional forms in general, but I wonder if this game won't have any regional forms and it will just have new megas to balance that out, or maybe a couple new legendaries, kind of like Cupid Snake in Legends Arceus.
How do they explain it? When Professor Leventon brought over Rowlet and Cyndaquil.
They didn't.
Oshawott. They didn't. He just had them.
Yeah, he just said he brought them from regions he'd been to. And they never explained why. The thing is, Hisui's a different time period, so the conditions of the region are different. When they did X and Y, they gave you 2 sets of starters. They gave you the original Kalos starters to start the game, but they didn't get megas. You got Charmander, you could then I think after the first gym, I want to say, or maybe as you reach the first gym town, Professor Sycamore showed up and he's like, "Hey, I've got more starters for you. Do you want to pick one of the Kanto starters?" And then those are the Pokemon that Mega evolved after that. So I wonder, this is my first theory of many, is I wonder if first off, I think there's going to be regional variants because there's so far since they've introduced them, there hasn't been a single game without new regional variants, with the exception of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Although at the time they weren't really doing a lot of new forms and stuff for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is obviously its own self-contained thing where they just didn't do that, but they did bring over the Kanto ones in that game. But Legends Arceus got regional forms, obviously, but again, that was a different time period. But so what I think they're going to do, though, is they'll do regional variants for the final stages of these Pokemon, and then we'll get the Kalos starters a little into the story, and they will get Mega Evolutions. Because they didn't show those Pokemon off at all in the trailer.
Is Greninja getting a Mega, or is it just getting Ash Greninja labeled as a Mega?
They got rid of Ash Greninja in the last game. It no longer changes form. It still has Battle Bond and it still gets all the stats boost, but it does not look like Ash Greninja any longer. So this could tangent off in a bunch of different directions. But I think it's probably likely they're going to get megas instead of forms. Unfortunately, I would like to see them get regional variants. That way, the Johto starters have a complete set of their own new alternative evolutions. Yeah. I really want that. Plus, I think with all the stuff they've been doing for Johto Pokemon in the last few years, I do think it's possible we're going to get some kind of Johto game that will have all these new evolutions and variants and stuff in it. And so when they do that, you'll be able to choose in that game, okay, yeah, Typhlosion has an alternate form, but Chikorita and Totodile don't. They have megas, and vice versa. Cyndaquil doesn't have a mega, but it has Hisui and Typhlosion. I think it would be really weird to not complete the trio properly. And I think the reason they picked 2 Johto starters is not only to keep us guessing, but also because they need that. I saw a theory that the next Legends game is a Johto game, and they can't have those one of those starters as the like special region starter, because those Pokemon would already be there. They wouldn't get regional variants. So they've got to get them out of the way now, so that when they do their big Johto spinoff, they can then have those three Pokemon will also have their own forms, but also now they can pick other starters from other regions without worrying about completing the Johto trio. Because I do think the fact that they've chosen 2 out of the 3 regions that got alternate forms in Arceus means they're probably going to try to complete each set of starters before moving on.
That makes sense.
So like we got Rowlet, Litten and Popplio are not in this game, but Litten and Popplio and Snivy will be the next starters, and they will get their own regional variants. And then each set of those starters will get it'll be balanced. Like each one will have its own regional variant, final evolution, but who knows?
So I mean, like sewage for alligator makes sense, but we're gonna have sewage Meganium and sewage Embor. Is that the final? Yeah, as well. Mm-hmm. I just call him like he looks like Toon Ganondorf. So
he does look like that.
Like I'm curious about like what about France is gonna make these Pokemon change? Like I'm or like, is it going to be like the exposure to something makes them different? Like I am curious if they are going to do regional forms, which I hope that they do. And I agree with your logic there of it will be weird to like split up the trios like that. But I'm curious how they're going to justify it. Unless it's all like, this is a completely different dimension. And because Looker is in the game, Looker's like, oh, geez, I got stuck at a 3rd dimension now. In this dimension, some Pokemon have... Well, but I mean, like, Looker exists, right? So, like, and you can see the code. So, you know,
But that's Emma's, though. He left the office to Emma at the end of X and Y.
But I'm saying that, like, he could come back. Like, because I'm saying this is a 3rd dimension, he comes back and is like, oh, geez, like, I'm in a 3rd dimension. Why is a Totodile or why does a Feraligatr look different here? And, like, I'm curious what the explanation is going to be.
Could be the new legendary that represents the A in the title, changes Lumiose somehow.
Yeah.
They could call them city forms or Lumiose forms.
Like urban forms, like, and they have like sunglasses and jackets or something.
So I to be honest, I don't know how they're going to justify regional variants that aren't from later gens, but I do think, I don't know, I would be disappointed if they got megas personally, because I would like to see the trios just be complete. But I also have a feeling that, like, realistically speaking, it's just going to be megas.
Speaking of megas, do you think we're going to get Charizard 5 and 6 then? So, like, Charizard, Mega Charizard Z and Mega Charizard A?
Oh, I think we'll get Charizard Z. I think that's actually possible.
I wasn't even thinking about the possibility of Charizard 6.
You've got X and Y forms. Z, ZA. This makes sense. Charizard gets so much attention. You can't have too many Charizards.
I saw someone make fan art that was like a joke. That was all the mega evolutions for the new starters. It was just like Embor looking like a Charizard, Feraligatr looking like a Charizard.
Oh my god!
Meganium looking like a Charizard.
I need to see this.
I don't remember where I was somewhere, I think, on the hellscape that is known as Twitter. Do we have any other theories? Thoughts, hopes, dreams?
I mean, like, the Ralts line is already confirmed. Chandelure is there. Because we got
the guy just walking his Chandelure down the street. Here's my flaming hot ghost Chandelure that's walking around.
It's aesthetic. I would do that. But Rotom is now in every game. I don't, like, we just got a new Wooper, so I'm not expecting Wooper in this game. Misdreavus has been in the last couple, so I'm not super expecting Misdreavus, but it's nice that, I can see some of my favorites already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the X and Y gen Pokemon. Like, oh my gosh, Go Goat. The Aegis. How do you say Aegis Slash? Line?
I think Aegis Slash.
Aegis Slash, yeah.
Yeah, those are one of my favorites. Yeah.
I just had a thought actually that speaking of like how are they going to justify any change, like all the mega stones as far as we know too, like they found all of them. Where are they finding new mega stones? But like doing construction is maybe what justifies all these new areas that they find in Lumiose and justifies maybe the regional forms. Is like, oh yeah, we dug a hole, we found the catacombs, and we've unearthed energy from the planet or something, because we know that's where where Lumiose Tower was where the ultimate weapon originally was. So maybe they unearthed energy that was originally there. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of sewage, it's just going to be like, cave forms of Pokemon. All of them are pale with skin over their eyes.
They're all albino.
Won't help explain the starters, but it definitely can work for the other Pokemon for sure. And I think, we still don't know what this A is all about in the Pokemon Legends ZA. So it is possible that the catacombs end up being sort of a Hollow Earth kind of thing. And it is like a completely different, or not a completely different dimension, but at least a different land where you could even have like, it's not completely dark. You have some places illuminated by crystals or something. And there's, an underground forest down there. Like, it's unlikely that it's going to be that expansive, but it is a possibility, and that would definitely help explain some new regional forms. But I do like the, tearing up things in construction and exposing different energies and, different, mega crystals are found, or, maybe they are trying to artificially make mega stones. This could, sort of explain how Mewtwo has one. Like, they could say like, oh yeah, we, a couple decades ago, we tried to make a Mega Stone for Mewtwo and it worked too well. We got two, and maybe one of Charizard's stones is artificial. And that's why Charizard has two. So maybe some of the artificial Megas from this game can, they look a little bit, Mega Evolution is already supposed to be super painful, but maybe they look a little bit more odd or something because they're not completely natural. It's a lot of possibilities, and it will probably be much simpler than we're theorizing.
Yeah, probably. Nicole?
Yeah, that could be like maybe the real goal of the Quasartico organization. I'm just looking back at your notes. They're saying like they're supposed to be helping rebuild the city, right? But maybe in the process, like, they're secretly looking for these, like, the new Z crystals and, like, maybe weaponizing it. I don't know.
Well, Lysander already tried that once, so he probably would try again.
Not Finny.
Before we wrap up, does anyone I'm going to ask both of you for two things. First off, one Pokemon you want to see get a Mega Evolution, and another Pokemon you want to see get a regional variant or new evolution. Amy-Lynn, we'll start with you.
I wish I had this question in advance, because I probably have quite a few. I think for a Mega, it would probably be a Pokemon that hasn't had a lot of love previously. So, I'm thinking something like Starmie or Sandslash. I guess Sandslash has a regional form, but Starmie doesn't have anything. I guess Chandelure doesn't have anything. So yeah, Mega Chandelure would be cool. I'm not sure how you would expand it. And I think that like
a more grand Chandelier.
Yeah, probably. Or like a street lamp, maybe, like a full, like, I know Lampent is kind of a street lamp, but it's the old-timey kind that hangs on.
Could be a new evolution for Lampent.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to that as well. And I think urban regional evolutions would be really fun. But I think that for like different forms, I'm going to, I guess, cheat and just say that I just want more appliances for Rotom to go into. I think that would be a fun sort of way to get additional forms in. And mostly because I can't think of regional forms. Like, of course, always just my favorites. I'd love to see, a regional Gardevoir or Gallade, or something like that. But I think additional Rotom forms is more likely, or, Chandelure is a possibility too.
Nicole, I'll give you a couple extra seconds to think while I give mine. For the Mega, I would like to see, there's a bunch I would like. I love Mega Starmie, but if I had to really decide, it would be Mega Kleavor, because Scizor already has one.
Oh, yeah.
And Kleavor is a pretty recent Pokemon that I think could look even cooler if they gave it some more extra bits like they did for Scizor. So I want to see Mega Kleavor, especially since there's a lot of room there to be like, oh yeah, we had a stone for Kleavor, but we didn't know it was Kleavor's stone until all this Hisui stuff became unearthed or whatever. Maybe the Black Augurite is how they found it too. Who knows? Which is what Kleavor evolves with. But and as for regional forms or evolutions, I think I like your idea of like a sewage, like a poison type Dratini. It doesn't have to be Dratini necessarily, but maybe Dragonair has the poison type, and then it evolves into an alternate. Maybe not Dragonite specifically, but maybe the serpent thing keeps going, and it becomes like a toxic serpent in its final stage. It's like that actually looks more like Dragonair instead of like a flying type like Dragonite, where it has like wings. That could be kind of fun.
I like that a whole lot.
Okay, Nicole, your time is up. You must go.
Oh, man. I have not thought about this as enough, but I'm trying to think. I'm just going back through all the X and Y Pokemon. None of them had Megas, right? Like all the new Gen 6 Pokemon. Right. Well, I am a fan of Aegislash. I still don't know how to say it properly. But I think it would be cool to see a Mega that, like, kind of just like a full, like, weapons arsenal, maybe.
A Game of Thrones. It's just a bunch of chairs.
Exactly.
Or
just
a chair made of swords.
Yeah. Just a bunch of floating swords. But also Gudra, I forgot. That was another one. Maybe it'll be like, maybe that could be, like, it looks kind of like it could come out of the sewer. Maybe that could be like a regional variant. A sewer Gudra.
Sudra?
I could see it.
We haven't had anything new for the Poliwhirl line. Like, I think, if we can have Mega Slowbro and Mega Slowking, or I guess we don't have Mega Slowking yet, but I would like to see both Mega Politoed and Mega Poliwrath.
That would be nice. Actually, speaking of the Slowking line, I would like to see Mega Slowking, and then I want to see Mega Galarian Slowbro and Mega Galarian Slowking. I want all of those to get... we're not going to get them. We're probably not even going to get a Slowking, but I would like to see them get Mega forms too.
Mega Dunsparce with just more segments, I think, is an absolute must. Just like one more segment, like not even like a huge coil snake. It just has like one additional or two additional, so even the extra long one can still look cool.
New evolution, Dunsparce, called it Dunsparce, and then that gets a Mega, which adds even more segments until it's just really long. It doesn't fit on the screen anymore.
Something like the Executor, just like gets taller. What if it was like Tropius, but just extra long neck?
More bananas.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm seeing some fan art for Mega Tropius right now. It's like banana armor.
Yeah, some Megas, like they said they tried to design Mega Flygon, and we know from the Terra leak, assuming the Terra leak was real, although based on other information we've gotten over the years, it seems like Mega Jinx was also scrapped at one point. So we know there's been times when they've like had a design for a Mega Pokemon that they just didn't like, and they scrapped it. So like I know for some Mega Pokemon they just add extra bits. Like they gave Lucario some red to his design. They gave Scizor like made it look more menacing. But with Ampharos, when they made Mega Ampharos, they incorporated elements from its previous evolutions. So it actually looks more like Mareep and Flaffy, where it gets its wool back on its design. So I like those Megas better, where they kind of like seem to go back to their roots. It would also be fun to get some Megas that are based off Paradox Pokemon, because we know that what's it called? The the ancient Salamence Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
I can never remember. Roaring Moon is called Roaring Moon, and in that Pokemon's Dex entry, it says like it's reminiscent of a Mega evolution from another region. So it'd be really cool to get other Pokemon, and I think even Iron Valiant has some elements of Mega Gardevoir and Mega Gallade as well.
Oh yeah.
So it'd be really cool to see like some of those Paradox Pokemon, their regular forms get Mega evolutions that call back to those Paradox Pokemon, just to kind of like bring it full circle. And so plus we're still in Gen 9, so it would make some sense to do that.
I thought of another Mega that I really want, but I think that it might end up being too on the nose with pop culture. I think that one Pokemon that has been criminally like underrated and like ignored is Ledian. But I think because Miraculous Ladybug exists, they might think it's too on the nose to give Ledian a new form in the Paris game. But it would be great. Like poor Ledian, it's such a fun and cute and great design, but it is so weak and not
I'd like to see an
super
evolution
fun
for
to
it.
use. Yeah, anything for poor Ledian as long as it looks cool.
Yeah. Ariados too, because they're not really equivalent, but they're both those early root bug Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right? I also want to see Dragapult get something. I don't know what they would do with Dragapult, but I'm just thinking of Pokemon that came out after X and Y that they could bring to Kalos, and they don't have to actually explain why they have new forms, because they didn't exist at the time, right? So anything from Gen 7, 8, and 9 they could do. And we know they're open to doing Pokemon from very recent generations, because they gave Applin a new evolution in Gen 9 after it came out literally 3 years before that. So I've seen people talk about maybe some Megas for Gen 9 Pokemon like Scovillain. That would be kind of cool. Maybe Goldengo or Goldengo, however you pronounce it, but Pokemon number 1000 coming back to get a new Mega. And I want to do some, I think you mentioned earlier, Amy-Lynn, like new legendaries. I think we'll get a couple new legendaries, and not just like the A1. I think like they'll give another trio of Pokemon, like a new addition to it. Like we got the Reggies. They got 2 new Reggies in Gen 8. We got Enamorus in Gen 8 as part in Legends Arceus. So I don't know what trio would get something new, but I would like to see another legendary group get an extra member.
Would Scovillain's evolution just have like a neutral head that's like it's cool?
Or a Ghost Pepper head that's white.
That calls
back to their first form.
Ooh.
Which has like a white hat on it, I think. Are Ghost Peppers white? I don't even know. I just associate white in my head with Ghost Peppers. They look so hot, they don't even have a color. Maybe that's just my brain. Would it get, like, how many more heads would it get? Oh, I want to see Mega Magnezone. That's also something I want to see. I don't know what they would do with it at all, but maybe they could do like 3 Magnezones looking like kind of like 3 Magnemites becoming a Magneton. 3 Magnezones become Mega Magnezone.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Biblically accurate Magnezone.
That's what I was thinking. Like I was imagining like kind of like how Mega Metagross has the the I guess arms that don't have like full faces. Like I'm imagining Metagross having Mega Magnezone having like Magnemites but without eyes, kind of rotating around it.
No, I'd give him the eyes. That'd be cute. Be funny if it was like just more Magnemites attached to the Magnezone, but they were like armor or something, or giving it like like you said, like kind of like making the Magnemites all attached together, like link up to become like hands or arms.
Mm-hmm. I like the biblically accurate angel sort of loops.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of Paradox Pokemon, sorry, I'm getting carried away with this, but like I wonder if they could somehow incorporate Sandy Shocks into a Mega design somehow. Or give like Magneton like a third stage that's split off from Magnezone, and it becomes like, I don't know, maybe it gets legs, but then its Mega Evolution becomes more like Sandy Shocks. I don't know. I don't even think that would work, but I think that would be cool, and I would be down for it.
Ooh, I would love to see new, maybe fossil Pokemon if they are going in the catacombs. Maybe they'll unearth something.
Yeah, or even mega forms for Tyrantrum, and is it a Morris?
I think so, yeah.
That's the final stage. There's a
Aurorus.
Oh yeah,
Amora
Amora and
Aurorus.
Aurorus?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Aurorus then. I'd like to see those two dinosaurs get megas at least, if they don't add new fossil Pokemon. Be kind of cool. Any final hopes and thoughts and dreams for the game?
There's
Before we wrap up?
There's a Pokeball store in the original, from what I've heard. So I just want lots of fun Pokeball designs back. Like I'm not expecting like stickers or seals or whatever, but I just want the ability to buy as many like of the Pokeball types as possible. Kind of a small want, but I think that's... the biggest thing is just really great character customization. I really missed that from the last game.
Anything that gets rid of those awful fucking green and black jackets.
Yeah, like the fact that the game set in the past has better customization than the most recent mainline game is kind of an embarrassment. So I really hope that we get at least some nice character customization options.
Me too.
Yeah,
Nicole?
so I remember you mentioned that, like, Paris is the fashion capital. So, like...
Yeah, exactly.
It's gotta have, like...
It's definitely going to, because X and Y introduced customization in the first place. So I think there have to be, unless they really want you to keep on those ugly Team Zygarde jackets or whatever they are. I can't see why there wouldn't be good customization in this game, or at least crappy customization, but customization nonetheless. I would hope, anyway.
I think it's a safe bet.
Well, thank you both for joining me this week. I'm going to cut us off because I'm starting to, I'm running out of all the energy that I saved up from this week that I have left over. So thank you both for joining me this week. It was great having you both on, and Nicole to have you back on.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me back because, there's one thing I can talk with you. It's Pokemon.
Thanks for having us.
Funny.
Yeah, for sure. And that just about wraps up this week's show. Thanks to your avatars for joining me for another episode of your Queer Video Game Podcast. If you've made it this far into the episode, I really appreciate you taking the time to support queer-made content, which is a big deal. If you want to support the show, it would be really great if you could leave a rating, review, or comment on your preferred podcast platform. I welcome you to check out the website, trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word, that's trueavatarspodcast.com. You can also find the show on Blue Sky, Threads, YouTube, under the handle @trueavatars, all one word, and on Instagram under trueavatars. Importantly, if you're anyone you know is queer and involved with video games in some way, please don't be shy. I would love to hear from more queer voices in video games. Your voice is unique and valid and worth sharing with the world. And if you don't want to be on the show or know anyone who's interested, but you know about a cool queer video game or games industry story that's queer related, please let me know. The show's official email is trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. That's trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. You can also feel free to reach out via the website or the aforementioned social media pages. Things are tough out there, and queer people need to stick together when we can. Bye, True Avatars. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Take care and stay safe.